Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit today about learning how to take a break in life. And yes, I say learning because I think in a surprising way, you might say that this is a learned skill, and this is part about just developing, I think, your self-awareness and learning to read yourself and just kind of feel out where you're at with all sorts of different situations that you're going to go through in life. I wanted to talk about this a little bit today and just lay out a story that I'll always remember from my childhood or growing up. And this is one of those lessons I learned from my father. We used to do a lot of work together all around the house, in the yard, and we did a lot of manual physical things. And there was a lot of times where, of course, I was the younger, the the kid with the muscles, and I could jump in and do a lot of things that my father couldn't at the time. And we were always doing something with power tools, chopping wood outside, building something, just a lot of hard work, labor, those sorts of things. We did a lot of other different sorts of jobs around the house. We built a lot of things. And I always remember this lesson. I can remember on more than one occasion, my father had a way of reading where I was at with things more so than I did, at least at the time. And what I mean is, I would get just so dead set on track of whatever the tasks that I was doing at the point in time. And it could have been something that could be risky. Let's say like chopping wood. I mean, you could certainly hurt yourself if you allowed the tools to get out of control, or you overexerted yourself, or did any number of things. So there's certainly this risk factor that went up the more and more tired you got. And this is so relevant because, of course, like just general mechanics of who we are as human beings and people. I mean, as you go along, you keep working harder and harder for longer and longer periods of time, and you're going to get fatigued. And I think it goes without saying that when you are fatigued, you start to not do your best work. You start to lose a little bit of your judgment. You start to get a little sloppy, let's say, with things. And you do start to compromise maybe your safety or maybe your standards that you would otherwise have about you with whatever the job is that what you're doing requires. And so, yeah, I think, my father was there to look out for my safety and well-being. And as I said, he could always read me when I'm out there just, swinging away and working hard. And, he could just tell when things were starting to slip a little bit. And my work was just, it was getting sloppy, or it was getting maybe more risky or whatever. And I literally remember he'd start just kind of like, hey, you should take a break. Looks like you're getting tired there. Why don't you take a little rest and I'd just be like a thick-skulled kid, and I'd want to just keep on plowing through and get the job done and just get it over with so I could go and play with my friends or something, or do whatever I had to do it that day. But it was just funny because it would always like ratchet up, and it would kind of end up with him, coming out and yelling at me like, hey, take a break. Like I told you, take a break. And he'd force me to stop doing what I was doing. And it finally sank in, and I would take a break. And of course, there was a lesson to that too, because you would see that, you would go sit down for, a half hour and get some water, or get some food, or just take a little bit of a relaxation period. And then you could come back and finish off the job and do a good job at it and do precise work, or do whatever it was that you needed to do, when otherwise, if you just kept plowing through things, you get sloppier and sloppier. You tend to settle for less than perfection. Maybe you're just like you're just I think more prone to breaking things or doing things wrong, or doing things just in this hasty, sloppy manner. It never yields good results for yourself. And here I am today. I'm 39 years old, and I was outside doing some work on my car today, and there was these little parts underneath the dashboard that needed fixing. And I had been out there for a couple hours just getting frustrated, and it was hot in the garage, and I was trying to get these little parts to fit back together and just pulling my hair out trying to get this job completed. But I just got to this point where I knew if I kept plugging on, I was going to break these plastic parts, or I just wasn't going to get the thing back together as needed to be. And I heard my dad's voice in my head just say, hey, like, take a break here. Like, just take a step back, like take a breather, just relax for a little bit, and you can come back to this in 30 minutes or 60 minutes or something, and you're going to be able to knock this out, and you're going to be able to do it in efficient fashion. You're going to be able to do the job right, most importantly. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're not going to break things. You're not going to make more work for yourself, let's say, on the back end of all these things. So These are just two small examples, but I think for all of us, whatever you're working on in life, I think there's a lot to be said for just learning when it's time to stop, slow down, take a break, take a step back. And I find that a lot of times in general, when you have the luxury of doing that, a lot of times it allows you a little bit of latitude or space to reassess your issue or to come back to it with a fresh mind or a fresh energy or whatever you want to say, and you can complete things in a proper way, let's say. Whereas once again, if you didn't have this sense about yourself, you might just keep on plugging forward and just making more work for yourself in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, if you just didn't have this awareness about you. So as I was starting to say, I think this is something that can apply to anybody in whatever you're doing in life. It doesn't have to be manual physical labor. It doesn't have to be fixing things. It doesn't have to be parts. I mean, it could be like writing a book, or it could be, doing your homework or doing some project or doing anything that you've got to do in your life. Even I think your wheelings and dealings at work and with people and in your relationships and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot to be said for just, slow down, take a break, take a step back, catch your breath, just reassess the situation and come back with a little bit more of a fresh mindset, a little bit of rest in you. And I think you would be amazed at the results that will come about if you're able to take this approach. But as I said, it's just, as we all go through life, we're going to be adults, every single one of us at some point. You're not going to have your parent or your father, like in my case there, like the rest of your life to tell you these things. So you're going to have to grow that sense about you to know and self-identify when it's time for you. Like, you have to know and get good at recognizing when it's time for you to take a break. And I think that this will help you tremendously, whoever you are out there. And it's just something to think about, something to keep in the back of your mind as you go through life there. So, all right, guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day. We'll talk to you real soon.